When I think about my first queer experiences, I would definitely say awkward,
innocent,
shock,
nervousness,
difficulty,
longing,
liberating,
relief, I think.
Beautiful.
Utter delight.
I think the first time I questioned my gender identity and my sexuality was around 7 years old. I was raised in a very religious family, so we were Jehovah's Witnesses. I'll let you digest that.
I kind of felt I was different from a very young age, like almost like, you know, in primary school. I remember like having a very odd thought back then, and I only realized it was odd like years later, and it was like, oh, I wish I was like a boy so I could treat the girls better than the boys are treating them now. But I thought it was completely normal until I started telling my friends about it, and they were like, none of us think like that.
I would have been maybe like 15 or something like that, and I'd be like home alone, and then you'd, you know, kind of run into like mum's or my sister's room and like kind of have a little try on of like, I don't know if it would just be like a top or a dress or a pair of shoes or something like that, or a bit of makeup, and then immediately feel deep shame and take it off and lie to myself that I was doing that.
I'm not sure I ever questioned my gender identity. I thought I was a woman. In my brain, I was a girl. And the only way that I was ever able to find happiness was to change my body.
When I was a little boy growing up in Malaysia, and I remember seeing like Spice Girls and Britney Spears, and I was like, oh my God, that is so camp and so gay, and I really freaking love it.
I think the first time I questioned or I knew something was up was when I was watching Transformers with Megan Fox. And I was like, what's going on? And then also my like gender identity from a very young age, I always remember saying to my friends, and I also remember bringing it up to like my mum, being like, Mum, I think I'm meant to be a boy.
I guess when I started questioning my sexuality, I was listening to a lot of pop music, and something funny actually at home was I'd listen to the radio and my mum would be really critical of what was playing. Like if Elton John was playing, she'd be like, turn that off because he's queer. So I would like wait for her to go shopping, and then I'd just like listen to whatever I wanted to listen to.
A lot of my experience with my sexuality and gender is through music. Just growing up in Malaysia, a lot of music that is like female empowerment, and then always have like really cute guys in the music videos, and I was like, hey, like, I think I'm not attracted to women.
In my mid-teens is when I sort of started really grappling with what sexuality is, actually having a concept of, you know, there are what straight is, what gay is, and at the time I'd never heard of what bi was.
Year 3, I think it was, and I had this amazing kind of friendship with Sean Davis. He never knew, actually. He was a kind of friend without ever being a friend. I didn't even talk to him much. And I guess with hindsight, it was a crush. It was me going, I want to write his name on my pencil case. I want to have his name next to my name. I want to sit next to him in class, but I could never talk to him.
At 7 years old at Catholic school, I had a situation where I was playing with one of the boys in my class, and I got in trouble because we were trying to kiss each other. And it was mutual, it was consensual. The two of us were doing it, we were just mucking around. And I got isolated by one of the head priests. And my early memory of that day was, oh my God, they see me, something's wrong with me. And then being berated for doing something that wasn't even sexualized or anything really serious to me. We were just playing around. That was the first time I realized that there was something different about me.
I had to leave my hometown of Perth to I let myself fly, if you like.
Why did you feel as though you had to leave?
Possibly it was something to do with recognising that I couldn't, be myself there. I had to find a new environment to grow in.
And tell me a bit about this photo.
This is the car that I left Perth in when I was in my early 20s, 22, 23 perhaps, and I just knew I had to leave. So this is my favourite, this is my little car, my Mrs. Robinson. She was just a gem. My freedom bus.
I remember when I was little, I wanted to understand myself better. I would go on chat rooms and talk to gay men in my small town. There's not a lot of them, just to, because I was really interested in finding out if there were other people like me. But at the same time, I would be very scared to meet people. I think it was all chat. I didn't meet anyone because there's this huge stigma. And I remember someone at that time was like, "Are you top or bottom?" And I was like, I didn't actually know. I didn't know at that, at that age, I was clueless. I didn't know what all of that meant.
When I was 21, I knew I had to come out. I'd done a whole lot of processing, I'd done a lot of thinking about it, and I remember going to my first gay club by myself, not knowing anyone, just taking myself there, even as an experience, and feeling incredibly alone, yet incredibly kind of excited. I went to a club at 9 o'clock at night, not knowing that that's when no one goes, and just went in and just danced. And dancing was my way of just being part of the community. And I just go and I dance. And weirdly, I would leave at about 12:30, just when it was getting crowded because I couldn't dance anymore.
I got to my early teens and that's when I got this understanding of what same-sex attraction means and what heterosexual attraction means, all that sort of stuff. And then when I entered the gay community when I was 17, 18, there's that pressure to be gay. And at that time I sort of heard about what bi was, and bisexuality is mocked in popular culture. It's either not visible at all or it's mocked and invalidated, and that's not really something you want to associate with. And throughout this whole period I was still sleeping with women, I was still having great relationships with women, but I was keeping it quiet.
A lot of people in Malaysia, or at least when I was still there, they didn't like to use the word gay because gay is always associated with being really feminine, or there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of gay men in Malaysia, I think because they're not out, there's less stigma if they call themselves bi. So only after I moved to Sydney where I was comfortable saying that, hey, yes, I am gay and I am fabulous. But I feel recently I've started using the word queer because I feel queer is more inclusive, because queer is also about your gender identities, about your sexuality, and I feel queer includes the letters in LGBTQIA+.
Queer was a derogatory term, and like a lot of derogatory terms that sort of adopted and turned around in meaning by the group they're directed to. It was to do with just anything that didn't quite fit the norm. It wasn't anything to do with sexuality. Then it became directed toward same-sex attracted people. And now it's just generally, as I said, if you're not heterosexual, you can fit. You can be in that queer thing, as we know, because things keep getting added onto it.
Oh, I was using the pronoun she since I was a child to myself. I think publicly it would have been 18, as soon as I turned 18. That's the thing about trans people, especially binary trans people, that people don't realise is that I have no intention of smashing gender binaries. In fact, I protect my gender binary. I crossed from one gender to another. So my pronoun she is everything to me.
I never really understood the labels, to be honest. Queer, gay, I just didn't understand it. And you got to remember that we're talking about the 80s into the early 90s, which was all full on about HIV, all about AIDS. We're talking about those ads with the Grim Reapers. And this notion of kind of keeping yourself away from it was actually a self-protection. So whether I was gay or not, I was secretly always in love with men. The decision to be gay was a political decision. You had to be something, and you forced yourself into an identity. The idea of bisexuality wasn't even something I could contemplate from good Christian boy kind of thinking. And so for me, this labeling was one of those things that I fell into a need to be political about the label I wanted to be. And so I could fit into a group, I could fit into a tribe. Queerness was something I know done by other people somewhere else. I mean, we're talking about Queensland as well. The notion of trying to be different, trying to step out was really difficult. So, you tried to blend in as much as you could just so you could survive.
I used to identify as bisexual. I think that stemmed from growing up in a really strict conservative household where straight was the only option. And I was a bit shy to come out fully and say what I wanted to say. I soft launched my she, they pronouns on Instagram because they came out with that feature where you could add your pronouns, I think. So I just put them there. I didn't tell anyone, but I was hoping that people would maybe notice. And queer for me just feels really good and homely. Some people see lesbian as exclusively women being attracted to women, but I don't want to limit myself like that. I am attracted to women who are cis, who are trans, who are questioning, non-binary, so queer kind of encapsulates that really well.
When the gender issues were kind of hitting fever pitch, and I sort of needed an answer about who I was for me, I think I probably convinced myself that I was bi for a little while because I used to look myself in the mirror and say I'm straight, I'm gay, and I'm gay always felt right. But I was but how? I'm not attracted to men. So I convinced myself that I was bi for a little bit. And then never really acted on it or anything. I think I just lived under that label for 6 months.
Identifying as they, them, non-binary was still kind of recent. I think I came to terms with they, them and was confident in that maybe only a year ago or 2 years ago. And to this day, when I meet people that I know are not very knowledgeable about pronouns, I'm just oh yeah, just whatever comes out of your mouth, it's fine.
Drag was always something in the back of my mind that made me feel powerful. I would always, not necessarily dress up, but I knew that there was this Sasha Fierce character inside me that was inherently my strength. And I think when I think about myself now, this sort of physical appearance is the manifestation of what my strength looks like, which is inherently feminine, and it's divine feminine.
When I was at university, I remember in Toowoomba, there was this whole sexual deviance kind of law so that they could stop the gays, anyone queer going to clubs, and they'd be termed sexual deviant, and they could stop them from going. So all these drama students would be stopped going to bars because they thought they were all gay. And they're not all gay, they just dress like they are, calm down.
I was very much caught up in the women's movement at the same time as recognising my sexuality. And there was a phase where people decided that they really didn't want to have patriarchal names. And because my surname was King, Queen was the suggested alternative. Somebody called me DQ, and that name just stuck, and it's been stuck ever since. But I kind of find it appropriate in lots of ways, a bit of a Don Quixote in some way, or drama queen. I can be a bit of a drama queen.
Queen Kong comes from the rugby field. You would notice that I'm built like a brick shit house because I come from a rugby background. I was raised in sports, and so on this rugby field I was very feminine, as I've always been. I think initially it was an insult. People would call me that name because they thought it was like, you know, because I was queer and flamboyant, but I was really tough, and so I loved it because I am a queen and I'm definitely built like a gorilla, so I embrace it.
I first found the name Adrian when I was trying to hide my Facebook from my girlfriend's parents at the time. And I thought that if I chose a male name, they would be less sus about me being on her friends list. And then people in university started referring to me as Adrian because they'd only known me through Facebook or online. And I kind of stopped correcting them because I really liked it. And I didn't realize I would really like it. And I liked it more than what they used to call me.
I chose Catherine because it was a family name. It was phonetically soft, but it was also strong. And I knew that my journey would need strength and courage.
My mum is one of those mothers who, all she ever wanted was to be a mum, and then as soon as she was a mum, all she ever wanted was to be a grandmother. I think because of that, I had it drilled into my head that you have to have children. And, you know, I don't think I will. I then, had, lists in my head of, names that I want for children, and Rosie was just always the name that I thought if I had a daughter, I would call. But then when it came time to be, you know, you need a name, I was like, well, I'll take that then.
We get caught up in what a label is and pigeonholing ourselves, and I don't see them as labels, I just see them as descriptions, and I find it really comforting to be able to describe how I'm feeling and what I'm doing and what I want from my life and who I want to be.
What I would say to my younger self is hold on, you know, and also listen to your mum, listen to your aunties, listen to the women in your family, because they're gonna really teach you how to be a man, yeah.
I did a lot of self-blame at the time, so yeah, I'd say no, none of that. Just like yourself, you're all right.
And do you think you would have listened to yourself?
Well, that's probably the big thing, isn't it? I probably would not have taken an iota of interest in what I said. I would have told my future self to bugger off. I didn't know anything.
You won't always have to keep cutting pieces off yourself so that people will like you. That at some point, you can just be yourself and people will still look at you the way you want them to.
You don't have to stick by one thing forever. Going by she and they feels really good for me now, but I'm aware that in 5 or 10 years' time, I might have different pronouns, I might identify differently.
There's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing that you need to fix. And I know it's really hard because sometimes you don't really see other people like yourself, but things do get better.
Go easy on yourself, because there was such intense feelings of shame that I was doing the wrong thing for a lot of that, and self-exploration is a good thing.
It's not a big deal. If you feel it, then feel it, talk about it, but it's not you. That's not your whole existence.
Keep an open mind. There's so much of the world to discover, and there's so much of yourself to discover, and you don't have all the answers when you're a kid. Keep an open mind, and things will be difficult, but trust me, life is better when you're out.